Okay, this is Jason from the Law of Attraction Mastermind, and the technique that I want to let you guys know about today is called the Eerie Technique. And the reason we call that the Eerie Technique is actually many of the students report that soon after doing this technique, um, their eerie things begin to happen. Um, I won't go into them because I don't want to program you, but needless to say, it has that name for a reason, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And this is something that is fairly simple, and it takes about 15 minutes to learn and just a few minutes to perform. You can use it tonight as you drift off to sleep. So, but first I have to give you some little bit of foreground about why the Eerie technique is one of the first things that we teach you. And here we go. The belief is that the mind is creative. Everything that you have currently in your life, you created it, whether you realize it or not, whether you like what you've created or not. Every single person is uh, manifesting everything that they've ever had. So, and I know this can be, if you're in a bad spot, I know it can be uh, kind of disconcerting. You may be thinking, what? I created this. Um, One of the greatest things that you can do is to begin taking responsibility. Now, you know that you didn't create it on purpose, but the way the mind works is that whatever you put in it, it creates. Now, the problem is you haven't always consciously decided what's going to go into your head. Now, I don't want to get into a discussion of past lives and that sort of thing, but even as a kid, you were programmed by your surroundings and by your parents, and you may have picked up some of their subconscious thoughts, and that's part of it. Now, the mind doesn't doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what's put in it. Sort of like an oven. The oven does not care if you stick a shoe in it. If you stick a shoe in the oven, it's going to cook it. Same thing with the mind. You stick things in the mind, it's going to create it. That's what it does. That's its function. So here's an analogy. Most of the success systems and even a lot of the law of attraction type systems talk about using your conscious mind, which is fine. You do have to use your conscious mind. But one thing that they don't talk that much about is that the mind is actually your conscious thoughts plus your subconscious thoughts. Your subconscious mind or your subconscious thoughts or your core beliefs, your beliefs about how the world operates and what people are. If you say people are, and then you begin filling in the blank, or even some people are, and begin filling in the blank, you will begin to pull up from your subconscious mind some of your deeper beliefs about people in the world and the way things work. Now, the mind is creating that. So if you believe that, um, say that in order to be rich, you need to be greedy, and you don't want to be greedy because it's not spiritual, and you want to be spiritual, then you put yourself in a bind. The mind can only create that for you because it's in there. So the mind equals the conscious plus the subconscious thoughts. Now, Abraham, um, you're probably aware of Esther and Jerry Hicks and a lot of their books, but one of the great quotes is I think this is a paraphrase. I'm not going to say this in the exact quote, but I think the spirit is the same. It's that you experience the balance of your thoughts. Okay, so that in itself, if you take what's on the sheet, you may begin to understand why in the past some of the things that you've tried to manifest hasn't worked. Um, if you're like most people studying the law of attraction, you seem to be able to manifest some things, but not others. The not others, it usually comes from a subconscious block that you have that you're not aware of. Uh, Another thing that often happens is you get close but no cigar. You say, well, I need a new car. I want a new car, and you end up getting a new car, but it's not exactly what you had imagined. It's not, it's not as new as you wanted, or it's not as nice as you wanted, or it's an SUV and you wanted a minivan, but it's close, but it's not exactly. That's another thing is you live the balance of your thoughts. So you had competing ideas, maybe probably subconsciously, that actually affected the outcome because the mind is creative. It's always creating um, the sum total of what's there, conscious and unconscious, or nothing at all. You may have had just, you know, no real success, and that could just become from, serious subconscious blocks that you haven't yet taken care of. So what are you to do? The mind equals the conscious plus the subconscious thoughts. So what you really need is you need a way to pull up all of the unconscious or subconscious thoughts that are interfering with what it is that you're trying to manifest. Like Jesus said, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Another analogy is, you know, if you're just trying to use positive mental energy, mental imagery, and if you're only trying to use positive affirmations and work yourself up emotionally, and try to really want, you know, that could be like covering up a pile of trash with flowers. So because the mind is going to create it's going to use the entire contents. It's going to manifest its entire contents. So just throwing flowers on top of trash, the net result is not going to be good. So you have to have a way of removing the trash. Well, we're going to talk briefly about some of those. Remove those negative thoughts, subconscious negative thoughts. Now, uh, if you noticed earlier, the analogy of the iceberg is that your conscious thoughts are actually just a very small part of what's actually going on. It's only what you're aware of right now at this moment. Okay, so you have a past. If you're 30 years old, you have this moment, your conscious thoughts, and 29 plus years of other thoughts. Okay, so you have to remove those negative thoughts. Now, the systems that only deal with conscious thoughts aren't going to be as effective because it's not dealing with all the other stuff that's suppressed, stuff that you don't even know about or remember until you have a way of pulling it out of your unconscious and getting rid of it. So how do you do that? Well, there are three main ways. One is that I found particularly useful is called the release technique, and it was created by Lester Levinson, who was someone who became a free one. He went all the way into complete freedom, and he developed a method for um, digging up a lot of your subconscious thoughts and beliefs and letting them go. And there's a book out called the Sedona Method, and there's another book out called the Abundance Book by Larry Crane that are both excellent, that give a rundown. Um, it might take a couple hours, a couple days to really understand what they're talking about, um, but for me it's been the most effective thing by far. The other one is the emotional freedom technique, and you can go to their website, emofree.com. They have a guide that you can download for free, and that's a way of tapping in order to take the emotional charge off of negative things, and that's another way of letting those negative thoughts and beliefs go. Um, so that's another thing. It would probably take a little bit to learn. They have DVDs and stuff like that, and they have seminars that you can go to. Same thing with the release technique or the Sedona method as well. The third is probably the most difficult, but if you could do it, it would also be the most effective. Um, and that's just complete surrender to a higher power. I say it's the most difficult because there's not that many people who actually do it, so I'm sort of assuming. I've tried it. I just, I found the release technique to be a lot more effective. It's a slower way, but more and more, uh, see what happens is the more subconscious hindering thoughts that you get out of the way, the quicker the manifestations come, and the more they are how you really want them to be. So not only do they become more accurate, the distance, the time aspect of it collapses down. So because the idea is that you live the balance of your thoughts, and every thought takes up some mental power. So by releasing thoughts, by releasing negative thoughts, the remaining thoughts become more powerful. So that eventually a thought that you put into your mind would be manifested very, very quickly. So we know that covering up a pile of trash by throwing a bunch of flowers on it just doesn't work. It's not getting us where we want to go. So what do? Now, all of the above will work, and I'm recommending all three of them. But what if you could simply bypass the subconscious mind, which is what we're going to talk about right now? Sleep. We call it the doorway to eternity, doorway to the other side. And I mentioned earlier, the following technique has been called by a lot of manifestation students as the Eerie Technique, because usually within a few days of doing it, eerie things begin to happen in their life. What we witnessed in the past is solutions to impossible problems just seem to appear as if from thin air. Strangers come from nowhere to offer miraculous aid and then seem to disappear without a trace. Now, I'm not saying that they're angels or anything along those lines, but what I am saying is that these types of things are happening to the people who use the Eerie Technique. Money problems dissolve almost instantly. That's happened to me countless times. And not only money problems, but um, there's one example that of just tons of money saved. I was about to walk into a negative business deal. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was a good idea, and someone emailed me out of the blue. They had found my website about something entirely unrelated, and we met. We started talking, and I mentioned something over lunch about this aspect of a business opportunity that I was pursuing, and they pointed out several things that caused me to think, and eventually they turned out to be right, and it just probably saved me a lot of money and a lot of heartache and a lot of wasted time and stuff like that. So that's another example. Um, and then health challenges disappear like they never existed. Okay, so what is it? Well, um, Jose Silva actually called it the mental video technique. And step one is you create a mental video of your current problem. Okay, so you just act like you have a video camera and try to capture the essence of it in a short mental movie of, say, 5 to 10 seconds, something short but still encapsulates the gist of the problem. Step two is you can go into a meditative state bordering on sleep, or you can do it as you're going to sleep, or as you're already lying in bed. Um, so once you get into that meditative state, the alpha state, or that state where you're sort of, you're nice and still, sort of bordering on sleep, um, maybe not very, very aware of your body, and that's when you create a mental video of the solution. Okay, and that's another 5 to 10 seconds. Now, what you do is you hold that mental video of the solution in your mind, right? In mind. So you just continue playing it over and over again as you drift off to sleep. You want to keep it short, about 10 seconds, to keep your mind from wandering. If it's too long, then what we found is that a lot of people will begin to wander off in the middle. Um, you know, 30 seconds in this mental movie they've created, all of a sudden they're, you know, 500 miles away, you know, on the beach somewhere, or even worse, they're, you know, they started to worry again. So as you're doing this, you keep it nice and short so that you can just keep on repeating it, and it helps you to focus. And here's a very important part. The next step of the next part of step 4 is feel how you'd feel if the problem were solved. Okay? Now, you want to take the feeling and the video, you want to hold on to it as long as you can, and hopefully take it into sleep with you. Because when you go to sleep, um, the conscious and subconscious thoughts actually go into the heart center. So they actually disappear, so to speak. But if you can keep that mental video going up until that point, there's a point where there will be no other competing thoughts, subconscious or conscious, and you'll be left with, and that's the only thing that will be left in mind for that, you know, in that instant. So it gives it tremendous power at that instant. Now, the next few days, 3 days, you want to look for coincidences. You want to look for opportunities that are aligned with the solution. Okay, and if something comes up, if you make some progress on that, then you want to create new videos. Basically, you want to go back to step 1 and start over with new, you know, the new problem. The problem is changed. If you've got new information, probably, maybe it hasn't. And then sometimes these coincidences will change your idea of what the solution would be. So you get closer. It's kind of an incremental thing. A lot of people say they don't even do that part, and it still works. So I'll leave it up to you how you want to do it. Now, here's something also is very important. Anytime you have any kind of success with this or a gain with this, you want to post it to the forum of the blog. The reason is because your mind is in patterns, and it works in patterns, and it has a way of discounting your successes because you're trying to go in a different direction. You're trying to break out of the patterns, and it tries to minimize them because it's trying to stay in its own pattern, right? But by posting your successes or your gains, it makes it more real to your mind because you've posted it somewhere, or maybe you've written it down in a journal, or something like that, and it makes it more real. It keeps your focus on it, and it's something for you to look back on in the past. So it'll help strengthen your resolve as well. Another reason is that, remember, we have a lot of people who are also involved, and you know, the law of attraction teachers in the mastermind may be able to give you even more insight into what's going on, something else to try, a new technique or a new belief or a new mindset that can play off of that, and it'll help the other people who are in similar situations. It'll help them keep going. It'll help them dig a little deeper and decide, you know, to stay focused and to stay with it. The the main thing keeping people away from success with the law of attraction is giving up. Um, you're already manifesting, so it's just a matter of um, doing it consciously. And the only way you could actually lose at this is to stop. So posting your success or gains is another thing to call it, a success or a gain or a testimonial or whatever, to the forum or the blog will keep people going, will keep everybody moving in the right direction. Okay, so it's just as much for you as it is for everybody else. Now, this video, if you aren't part of the Law of Attraction Mastermind, these are the kind of videos that we have in here. Um, and what it is a bunch of teachers of the Law of Attraction joining all together to teach others in an intensive members-only mastermind. And the thing about that's different is that it's not an ebook, it's not even a correspondence course. What it is it's a very interactive system of teaching, so that we release techniques once a week or once every 2 weeks lessons that you can actually put to use almost immediately after after practicing or reading about it or listening to the video and learning about it. And then if you don't understand something or you have a question or you run into some kind of snag along the way, you can post on the blog or the forum for help, and then the people who are already just a little bit further along, or maybe a lot further along than you as far as mastering the law of attraction, will jump in and help you. One of the mottos is that if you have a problem, then we all have a problem, and we're all required to rush to your aid. Okay. Now, in order to keep this level of um, personal attention up, we do have to limit the membership. So, um, there will be a pretty good ratio of students and teachers, and we can't just let anybody in, because if it gets too big, then there's a lot of people asking questions and not very many answers, or a lot of answers that are from people who are not as experienced. So we're trying to keep the quality level up real high, so that's why we limit membership. Now, the doors are going to be opening on December 13th, 2008, and you can there's a email sign up form if you want more information as the time goes on, before we open these doors. Just go to loamastermind.com for the details. So I want to encourage you to put the Eerie technique to work and see how it works for you. And if you have any questions, hit the blog and post your questions there, or if you get any successes or gains, I want to hear about those too. So I would say good luck, but luck has nothing to do with it. But hope to hear from you.